Hey everyone, it's Kong again with another episode of Should You Summon. This banner is absolutely worth your hard-earned vouchers and crystals, so instead of a high-level overview, this week's video will mainly be for the benefit of synthesizing what this new unit does. This month, the main event is a 1-unit limited banner just like Wehttam's. Kind of like a normal raid-up banner, you have a 40% chance to get the Awakened one. But unlike a normal raid-up banner, there's not another featured character, so the other 60% is all for off banners. To sweeten the deal, anytime you do pop one of those 60% off banners, you get some AO shards as a consolation prize. If your off banner is someone you have at 6-star already, you get 15 consolation shards. If not, you get 10 consolation shards. So it's perfectly possible to get the Awakened one entirely from summoning other off-banner units. Not ideal, but possible. So let's see if we can figure out why she's so OP. The Awakened one is the next level of power creep mage in this game. Accordingly, she does everything pretty well. Her talent gives her native plus 30% damage and plus 2 range with no conditions, just be 6-star. At the end of her action, she can choose to curse 2 enemies, reducing their healing by 30% and making it so moving more than 2 spaces costs more mobility. This effect lasts 2 rounds, but at 5 stars her cooldown is only 2 rounds, so she can keep cranking curses out. She also has an interesting revive. When she dies, she drops a portal to another dimension. At the start of the next turn, a clone with reduced stats arrives from the portal. If the clone gets a kill, it's replaced by a full power real AO. If the clone doesn't get a kill within 3 turns, it just dies automatically. For normal skills, she has Lightning, Teleport, Fireball, Thunder Zone, Dark Dragon Breath, and Black Hole. Pretty good spread of ST and AoE utility. Her unique 1-cost skill can target a single ally or a single enemy. If you target an ally, you give them 2 buffs. If you target an enemy, you give them 2 debuffs. Afterwards, you swap positions with them and then move 2 spaces and act again. Although, if you're targeting an enemy, they do need to have her talent curse for the swap part of this to work. Her unique 2-cost skill is a beefed up Dark Reaper basically. It does 1.6 times damage with an extra 20% if the target has her talent curse, and it heals her a chunk of the damage she caused. Finally, her 3-cost skill passively faction buffs Heroes of Time at the start of battle, Elwyn style. It's the usual faction buff effects plus a general 8% damage buff. Unlike Elwyn's, which wears off, AO can refresh this buff every time she actively casts her 3C. Speaking of which, when cast, it drops 6 meteors on random targets in the span. Each meteor does 0.15 times damage, but successive meteors that hit the same target do plus 10% damage. If all 6 meteors hit the same target, yes, which is a thing that can happen, then the skill's cooldown is refreshed by 3. If the enemy has no soldiers, the meteor does 300% more damage. I guess this is to make it more than a little splash against big soldierless bosses. Do note that this particular bonus only counts if the unit literally has no troops, not just against any unit whose troops have already died. So it's not going to obliterate Oboro, for example, at least not any more than it already will. Finally, if any enemy dies from this skill, her talent trigger cooldown gets refreshed, so she can start cursing enemies again. A couple final interesting notes: she has access to Crystal Warlocks, and she has over 600 base int and 4000 base HP in her mage class. She's a member of Heroes of Time, buffed by Joshua, Angelica, Yusuke, and now herself. Dark Reincarnation, buffed by Bozel and Licorice, and Mythical Realm, buffed by Gizaroth and the Sage of the Trees. For bonds, she doesn't unlock anyone else's bonds yet. I guess we'll have to see how the story unfolds to see if she gets better treatment than the Transcender. And she needs Grenshiel for her own defensive bond and her sleepy version, Ad Ankelmo, for her own attack bond. For content, in PvE, she's on faction for Leviar in the Eternal Temple, and she's the new high-scoring, leaderboard meta-carrying main DPS for Fenrir in Ancient Beckoning. She'll also help you fight that mean old ice dragon if you're not done with him yet, and she'll almost certainly be powerful against various challenges and Ragnarok of the Realm bosses. On the PvP side, she's strong against several different enemy strategies. She can slow down an enemy rush using her talent curse, which is a big part of an overall meta shift back to more tank-based teams. Her weird revive mechanic makes her annoying to kill, partly because it's not actually a revive, so it can't be shut down by stuff like Z2. And her 3C kills whole teams. The pick and ban meta basically turns into a choice between first banning Rosenseal or AO. If you ban Rosen, they get AO and a competent team of DPS, and if you ban AO, they get Rosen and a tank of choice and they can turtle up. So you pretty much have to pick which of those lines you want to face. For her build, this shouldn't be surprising for such a versatile unit, but there are a couple of builds for her depending on what you're trying to do with her. For purely PvE use, you're probably going to want her in her Demon class. The meta Ancient Beckoning build uses Red Moon, Charon, or the SR Warlock Hood, and Dimensional Jewel, enchanted with Blazing Sun for max damage output. For PvP use, you usually want to avoid Demon class because of the preponderance of holy opponents. PvP gear can go a couple of different ways, again depending on what you're trying to do with her. Her main enchant would be Breeze, unsurprisingly, but Thorns could also be an interesting option if you want to go all in on reflective damage. Your most likely weapons of choice will be Red Moon or Nightbloom if you want to take advantage of her multiple actions with her swap mechanic to help clear debuffs. A lot of people forget that Nightbloom is a straight plus int staff just because it's most frequently used on healers. Double Tenyo is a safe bet, although if you play a more turtley style you may want to give her electric headwear to prevent displacement instead. Accessories a little flexible as well. You can use Dropnir if you want to take advantage of her reflective potential with Crystal Warlocks, or you can use something more straightforward like Holy Ring to block silence, or Dimensional Jewel for the better base stats and a cooldown boost. Okay, let's move along to the notes for noobs. The Awakened one is a high-value addition to any team, and a virtual must-summon for both PvE and PvP. For beginners, you'll be able to drop her into whatever team you want, although bear in mind that she doesn't get access to her auto-faction buff till after you can unlock her 3C. Finally, just my usual reminder about upcoming banners. Since this is a special event month, we are going to be inundated with potentially interesting things to spend our hard-earned vouchers and crystals on. The main thing is the Lotto for Leon's SP upgrade stone, which is coming out next week, so you should budget 4,000 crystals for that if you want to use him. The other limited banner featuring Wehttam is also supposed to be returning alongside AO this week. Next week should give us an important raid-up banner featuring Elma and AO's attack bond unlocker at Ankelmo. Perfect timing for that one. Later in the month, we should be getting Destiny banners featuring Kruger, Azusa, and Mew, Kaguya, Rosenseal, and Claret, and Landius, Jugler, and Yulia. Finally, to close out the month, it'll be our turn to get the 4 separate Valentine's Day couples banners. They are King of the Red Moon and the Wandering Duelist, Rainforce and Shalinka, so I guess we get both versions of Rainforce in here with both of his girlfriends, Vincent and Ilusha, and Dehart and Tiaris. These banners use the special CP token trade-in system, which means you'll get a token if you summon any on-banner SSR, even if they're not at 6-star already. Then you can trade 50 shards of one character for 60 shards of their partner. And this is a good way to get a new free SSR if you pre-farm Gates of Fate in advance. With such a packed month, including the latest OP must-summon ticket sync, it's tough to start thinking ahead to the next update, but I'll at least mention that it'll be Grenshiel's horse dad and her bird brother. We'll talk more about them soon. Oh, it's also worth mentioning that 2 months from now we should be getting another crossover, this time with Kirika, Sonya, and Excella coming from Shining Resonance Refrain. So if you're a hardcore fan, that'll be something to start saving up for after blowing everything on AO this week. Okay, that's it for this episode. Since I know you're summoning, let us know in the comments or on the Tone Discord what kind of luck you ended up having. I'll start by just trying to summon one copy, and then depending on my luck, I'll decide if I want to keep going. Thank you so much for watching, and for all your continued support. I wish you all the best of luck, and I'll catch you in the next Should You Summon. Extra special thanks, of course, to our Langrisser tier channel members for generously supporting the channel directly. Shout out to Levitt, Derek, Kate Soon, Jared Portela, Jerome Meyer, and Harambe.